Hello everyone and welcome to Battle of the Beasts All Generation episode number 53. I'm Adam and today I got two more beasts fighting it for a spot in round 2. And with that, let's introduce them. Representing Series 8, the Pirate King. Book number 1, Balisk, the Water Snake. And representing Series 15, Velmar's Revenge. Book number 4, Quagos, the Armoured Beetle. So this matchup is a rather interesting one, and something I've learnt about Quagos is that, like with Balisk, they can fly. Well, one of Quagos' abilities is possible flight, and so we might have an aerial battle here, which is kind of interesting to an extent. With the arena, I think this is going to need to be a... It needs to be a half water, half land arena. So what I could possibly do is a half water, half land arena. So Balisk's side of the arena will be water. Quagos' side will be land. And with that, let's get into the stats. Okay, welcome back, and now we're going to go into the weaknesses. We're going to start with Balisk. So the weakness for Balisk is his weak spot. Balisk's weak spot is the black stripe going down the back of his neck, which, if stabbed, makes him melt away and die. So yay, reassuring for Balisk there. And for Quagos' weaknesses, it's unarmoured legs. Quagos' legs are not armoured like the rest of the body. And armour limit. The durability of Quagos' armour is limited, as he was defeated when Tom plunged his sword into the gap between the armoured area where his wings are. So with that, let's get into the fight. As both beasts exit from their chambers, Quagos flies out through the sky exit, which I can... Oh my god, the imagery of that kind of looks hilarious. And Balisk plunges into the watery depths below. He sees Quagos flying up into the sky. So Balisk splits himself into two and shoots up into the air whilst the other one stays in the water, circling the arena. The flying Balisk and Quagos stare each other down, and they clash right into each other, headbutting each other, spiting, pinching, stabbing, slicing, everything to try and attack one another. Balisk even wraps himself around Quagos, sealing up his wings, and then what Balisk does, he flips himself over and over and over and flings Quagos right down to the ground, impacting the land with a loud thud as Balisk flies back down, merging with the water Balisk, which then reaches his head out the water and goes to snap at Quagos, who is able to get back up and burrow underground. Balisk dives under the water and starts bashing at the land, trying to knock Quagos out. And Quagos decides to drain the water, so he buries down as far as he can, and then makes a variety of tunnels around there, and then goes up a bit and starts draining the water down, as he made a tunnel which makes the water come in, started flooding the tunnels that he made underneath the arena. So whilst he's doing that, Quagos is making his way halfway up, sticks his head out when the water's all passed by, and Balisk is just swimming around in utter confusion, trying to figure out what's happening. And unbeknownst to Balisk, Quagos goes to pinch at Balisk's side. Balisk roars in pain and swings his head, smashing his bone-sharp frills and gills on Quagos, knocking him backwards into the land, causing marks to appear all over his armour and also slicing at one of his pincers. Quagos squeals in pain and goes to attack again. And he's scuttling down the outside of the land now as the water's draining itself down. The water Balisk is trying to reach for him. And unbeknownst to Quagos, the flying Balisk, Balisk is split into two, and the flying Balisk is swooping down and knocks Quagos right into the water. The water Balisk then wraps himself around the Quagos and plunges down deeper, blocking the hole where the water's draining through. Quagos tries to get out, but he can't seem to, as the water pressure is forcing him into the tunnel, but he's too big to fit in there, and he can't seem to move whatsoever. And what Balisk does now, he just used his sharp gills to just swim right past Quagos, slashing at Quagos' underbelly as blood starts pouring out, and just joining the water in front of him. Quagos is losing his breath rather quickly as he can't seem to hold it because one of his pincers is broken. And Balisk decides to just bite on each of Quagos' pincers, his legs. More blood is pouring out. Quagos is starting to lose consciousness. And right when he feels like he's about to fade away and die, Balisk gets to a safe distance and charges right towards Quagos, bursting right through Quagos, forcing Quagos through that hole from the water pressure and the pressure from Balisk, almost shattering his armour in the process, and completely forcing him down into the tunnel to where he's almost definitely going to drown. But luckily for Quagos, he got to bleed out and not have to suffer the cruel fate of drowning. Instead, he died from bleeding out. So with that, Balisk has won, Quagos has lost. If you think Quagos should have won, please leave in the comments below why you think that. However, my word is final, and Balisk is moving on to the next round. Now, with this, whilst I wouldn't be fussed if Quagos won or not, it ultimately came down to how I narrated it. And with Balisk having the sea and air advantage, not to mention he's a rather big beast, so he can reach onto land by staying in the water as well. That already gives him advantage on two terrains and a less than mediocre advantage on land. Quagos was having an air and land advantage. His whole plan of trying to drain the water, whilst it was working, it backfired on him in such a bad way, which is obviously the cause of his death, because he made the hole big enough to drain the water rather fast, but not big enough to where he would fit through it if he was to fall. So if he falls, he was going to die. And with that, that's how I gave Balisk the victory. And that is all for this time. If you like what you saw, leave a like, leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe, press this little notification bell down in the corner below, and I'll see you next time.